did you resign?
Well, because the government policy, the Prime Minister's policy, was to make a series of concessions to the European Union on what they call the common rule book. All our businesses, all our manufacturing and agribusiness will be on a common rule book, which will be written by the European Union. And although she said that the Parliament will have the vote on each rule, each law it accepts, in truth, if they say no, firstly, let's say they say no to regulation on cars. All the cars then suddenly start being inspected at the border, so the so-called frictionless border evaporates. And of course, in some circumstances, it might actually trigger the so-called Northern Irish fallback option. That means Northern Ireland effectively being in a single market. Well, we can't have that. So there's a great sword of Damocles. So first off, that policy proposal I think is flawed. Secondly, there's a proposal to have a customs arrangement where basically we collect the European Union's taxes. Well, if that happens, then they'll insist the European Court of Justice oversees it. So that's the second. And thirdly, what's the typical tactic of the European Union? Is to take what you offer and ask for more. And at some point you have to effectively have an argument, have a conflict, and that's a high pressure point, and it'll be very scary and so on. But it needs to happen.
Was it your view that there was simply no point carrying on in the job because you weren't achieving what you said went to the government to achieve?
Well, I had a different view of what the policy should be. Indeed, we spent 7 weeks writing a white paper about exactly that, which is now going to be modified to take this on board. But I didn't believe in the policy, and I would be the person who is charged with delivering it, presenting it to the House of Commons, delivering it to the European Union. And, if you don't believe in something, you don't do a very good job.
Why did you sign up to it on Friday at Chequers then?
I didn't. I argued against it.
You argued against it. We know that Boris Johnson argued against it. There were 7 Brexiteers, outnumbered, I think, by about 20 Remainers. But you still signed up to it. There was still collective. We had no resignations on Friday night. There was still collective cabinet responsibility on Friday night.
When you have an argument in cabinet and the majority tends to win. Actually, the Prime Minister always wins. It's actually the British rule. And there have been plenty of times, indeed, as my letter says, over the course of the last year or so, in which I have had different views on the policy, on various elements of the policy. But I came to the view that this was one step too far. But, if you're going to resign from cabinet and you're in an important job, as I was, then you take your time over it. You think about it. In my case, because I'm a Conservative, I go and speak to my president of my association and the chairman of my association. All things, we didn't have any phones there. I couldn't do it from Chequers.
But you always, once you saw the document on the Friday, once you had the discussions and saw the agreement, you were always planning to resign?
No. I was going to think it through. That's why I said, you take 2 days to take 2 days to think about it. And talk it over with my wife. All those things. You don't. This is not just. This is not filling in a box on a football pools coupon, to pick a very old analogy. Or tick something. This is a big decision, as you see by the effect of it this morning. And so I decided to think it through carefully, which is what I did, and then make that.
Is this about the actual words in the Brexit proposal, or is this more about being disrespected, being dissed by the Prime Minister and her aides, who briefed out about collective cabinet responsibility, who appeared the joy of the Remainers in cabinet and elsewhere? Was this more about personality than policy?
No, you've known me long enough to know I've got pretty broad shoulders. And again,
I also know you're someone who resigns from a lot of jobs.
No, twice in 30 years, hardly a lot of jobs. It's not a weekly.
You threaten a lot,
Julia. It's not. No, I don't. I never threaten. That's one of the great myths of all this. But the simple truth is this is a issue of principle and policy.
Okay.
I'm used. Listen, I've been in Parliament 30 years. I've pretty much always been in the middle of controversies. That's just what I do. And you get things thrown at you all the time. There'll be people this morning telling me I'm stupid, disloyal, whatever it might be. I don't know. So what?
Okay, there are other cabinet ministers like Michael Gove, who was another vote leave campaigner, a big Brexiteer, and he's chosen to stay in government. Indeed, he went out to bat for the policy, saying this was leaving the EU. We spoke to James Cleverly earlier, another keen Brexiteer, now deputy chairman of the Tory party. He was saying, look, this is Brexit. We are leaving the EU. It's a compromise, but we are leaving the EU. Why do so many other Brexiteers in the cabinet seem to think that this is a soft Brexit, but it is still Brexit, whereas you seem to think it's version of Remain?
Well, firstly, everybody has their own principles. I mean, the reasons for wanting Brexit, remember, were different across the country. Some wanted.
Well, Michael Gove talked about national sovereignty. Do we have national sovereignty at the end of this?
This is the point. I mean, on this question of the common rule book, which is another word for common laws between us, shared laws. No, my view is that Parliament's rights there are quite illusory. If Parliament comes up with let's say a decision on agribusiness or something, and it decides not to go along with the European Union, it may suddenly find itself with Northern Ireland in a completely separate position. And, our union matters to us. Now, that sort of Damocles is too dangerous for this sort of arrangement.
Why do the likes of Liam Fox, Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, why do they not share your opinion then?
Well,
are they lying to us?
No,
are they stupid?
Look, you must talk to them and get them to justify their viewpoints. But, I mean, each of them, well, when we went around the table, I can't give you the detail of who said what at a cabinet meeting. That's not allowed. But I can say this to you, about half a dozen people shared similar views. Not the same views. One.
They thought this was a turd, like Boris Johnson said it was.
I don't think anybody actually used that word, but some half agreed, some fully agreed, and so on. But it's for them to make that decision, them to do that. It's not for me to make judgments about other people's actions.
Does anything actually change now? You've only had, 4 hours of talks with Michel Barnier in as many months?
I think that's somewhat inaccurate, but never mind.
How inaccurate?
I don't.
Not much more than that. The truth.
I had all the time I needed with Mr. Barnier.
The truth is that the negotiations have been taken over by Downing Street and by the Prime Minister's chief advisor, who used to be your advisor at the Brexit department, Ollie Robbins. Let's be honest, he's a fully signed up Europhile Remainer, isn't he? Well, some would actually say Remainer. Isn't the real issue that the Prime Minister is now well in the clutches of a fully Remainer civil service, desperate to save British voters from themselves and not to deliver Brexit?
No. I mean, both the Prime Minister and I want to deliver the best Brexit possible, and she accepts it's about control of borders and laws and money. We just differ on how it should be done. We differ on the what constitutes the best Brexit, and that's perfectly understandable. It's perfectly reasonable.
You still think that what she's offered is a version of Brexit?
I think it's a fairly diluted version of Brexit. I mean, on the issue of control of laws, I think that, as I said in my letter, this is the rights of Parliament are more illusory than real, and that's the problem. That's really a problem for me.
And so, in terms of if this does go forward, this proposal goes forward, and the Prime Minister is going to present it in the House of Commons today, she's now got to face the 1922 committee. We know that Jacob Rees-Mogg, leading the European Research Group, very well known, the leading Eurosceptic on the back benches, that he is going to vote this down. What happens then if Labour is saying they think this is a terrible proposal as well? What happens then? This proposal doesn't go forward to the European Union?
Look. One of the things about the negotiation is the negotiation has to be done by the government. I'm not a subscriber to this idea that every committee, every piece of the House of Commons and Lords has a say in every element of it. Eventually, they'll vote on the outcome. But she properly has got the right, as she should have, to go to Brussels and present the case she thinks she is best likely to deliver the best outcome. When I got the job, she said to me at the beginning, I, the Prime Minister, will run the negotiation. I want you to help me. That's the way it's been set up, and that's perfectly fair. Something as big as this. But so that's what will happen. But then we've got to see whether Brussels accept it, or whether they say, OK, we'll take this, but we want more. Which is a big issue.
Well, your letter of resignation suggests you think they will be asking.
Yes,
that's
one of my concerns.
Do you? Do you think that it's possible to run a negotiation on behalf of the UK leaving the European Union unless you are yourself a Brexiteer?
Well, it helps being a Brexiteer. It certainly helped me.
But we know that Theresa May doesn't actually believe in the cause. Well, even when asked, repeatedly when asked if she had a chance to vote again, would she have voted for Brexit?
You must put those questions to her. My view is that she understands very well from our conversations throughout the last 2 years on this, in private and in full committee and so on, full cabinet and so on. She has always seemed to me to understand very well what the British people wanted out of this. And that's the point. And she saw it as a duty to deliver it. Those two things together are the important components
And yet you've resigned because you don't think she's going to deliver
Well, I think the version she's putting forward, both in terms of policy and tactics, are not they're not the ones I will put forward. That's for sure.
Will they be acceptable, do you think, to a majority of Conservative voters, a majority of Conservative MPs, and indeed Leave voters? The polling suggests they won't be.
I don't know. I haven't seen the polling. I mean, one of the things about going away to think over the weekend is you don't spend your time reading a lot of newspapers. You spend your time thinking and talking.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
But you must have spoken. One of the reasons you've resigned, presumably, is because you've spoken to many Tories in your constituency who have said that they don't think that what she's proposed is what the British people voted for.
Some. But I can't pretend to speak for a majority. What I'm speaking for in my letter and in my decision is my own view. And my own view is that there was a better strategy than this, and so I can't believe in it.
Have you heard from Michel Barnier since you resigned?
No.
Just wondered. You said you had a good relationship.
Yes, but I think he's actually in Washington today.
Okay.
I talked to him on Saturday.
Okay.
In the middle of
They
all
still
this.
have telephones, I believe, and email.
But I think the time zone might be a bit different. It's probably breakfast time.
Have you spoken to your fellow Brexiteer cabinet ministers?
No.
Have any been in contact with you? I know you're not going to reveal what they've said, but have any of them been in contact with you?
I told a few of them last night. Sorry, that's not quite true. I told a few of them last night what I was about to do.
And did they try to talk you out of it?
They all said don't do it. Yeah.
And they have no intention of following suit?
No, I don't know about that. I didn't ask them that. It's not my business. My business is what I do.
Okay. Other than the fact that you've lost your ministerial car, so you were at least able to use it to get back out of Chequers, very long driveway, I understand.
And a bit of salary.
And a bit of salary. Other than that, will your resignation change anything, David Davis?
Well, it remains to be seen. I think one of the things it will do is it will make people very conscious of any further concessions. So there will be pressure on the government not to make any further concessions. That of itself is worthwhile. It depends what happens in the next stage of negotiations. The European Union may come back and say, no, we don't want this, in which case we have to rethink again.
And then we start all over again from scratch. Just one final point. The Prime Minister, in the proposal, it's all about preparing as well for a no-deal option, taking that seriously. Realistically, look, you've been in the job as Brexit Secretary for a couple of years. We are not remotely prepared for a no-deal Brexit in March 2019.
Oh, yes,
Why do you seem to be the lone person who thinks that?
No,
Why
I'm
do
not
you
the
think
only person. Funny enough, I briefed Cabinet on it over the weekend. No, the stance we've taken on no deal preparation, there are bits of it which are difficult. Let's just pull a couple of things out so you understand. Deals with third countries, they're quite hard to do anything about until no deal is upon you. So we have to sort of narrow that down, and there are quite a lot of them, to about 66 of those. So that, and also third parties, companies and things like that, will have to do things as well, which have not yet been initiated. But there's a lot of preparation been going on, 300 different projects. But we haven't made it public particularly. I mean, some of it's been made public. The preparation on HGV licenses and so on, there's a bill on that. People didn't notice that, it looks like. There's a sanctions bill, a whole series of bills coming out one by one. They're preparing for no deal if it happens. And actually over this summer you will see a lot of announcements coming out, just so that basically it's the insurance policy, and that'll come out. So people's view on that will change over the course of the summer, I think.
Okay, just finally, of course, you have...
Finally.
Waiting patiently for the news. I'll send you more there in a few minutes. But just finally, are you thinking about the option of a leadership bid in the event that Theresa May is forced from office by votes that go of no confidence going in?
No,
you will not stand for the leadership of the Conservative Party?
My view, my advice to my colleagues is support the Prime Minister. I don't agree with the strategy, but she's got to be supported in trying to deliver that strategy as best she can. I hope she's right and I'm wrong, to be honest. And that's what they should do. I don't want this to be any part of undermining the Prime Minister.
Except you've resigned from her cabinet, which undermines the Prime Minister.
Look, I have a choice. That's why it took 2 days to think about it. It's got downsides and consequences.
And in the event of there being a leadership challenge,
and actually, for me, it's a little more than just the issue of salary and car. I care about the task. This is one of the most important tasks in current times for Britain, and it's quite a big wrench for me to give it up. But it was necessary because I couldn't deliver this with the enthusiasm and commitment that is needed to deliver Brexit policy.
Who should take your job?
That is absolutely not a question for me. I've got my guesses,
Who do you think?
but I'm not.
Not who will. Who do you think should take your job? Who
No.
can deliver?
I tell you what,
if
I name somebody on air, I pretty much guarantee they don't get it.
Go on, then do it.
No, that would have exactly the reverse effect of what I want.
Okay, but just to confirm, you will not, if there is a leadership contest.
Look,
no.
no,
In the event there is a leadership contest, will David Davis be running for leadership of the Conservative Party?
I'm not in the game. No.
Okay.